Thank you. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Now let's begin. Let's get into our today's topic. So if you want to refer back to the excretory system that I have mentioned, that I have talked about last week, you can go to ELKEN Story's YouTube channel. And there are a few languages that you can choose from. So now we'll be learning about central nervous system. Oh, I believe that everyone has heard about nervous system, right? But so today we'll be talking about the central nervous system. So it is the main communication in the body, and it is guided by the central nervous system. And so the central nervous system is like internet, it's like a network that controls everything. So, well, what is central nervous system? It consists of the brain and the spinal cord. So as everyone knows, brain plays a central role in the control of most bodily functions, including awareness, movements, sensations, thoughts, speech, and memory. And as for our spinal cord, it is mainly responsible for the reflex actions of the trunk and limbs and transmits nerve information between the brain and the periphery. So it acts as a bridge between our brains and peripheral nervous system. So basically, it connects all the organs, all the limbs, and all the skins. So central nervous system is a really special organ because for other organs, their functions or their responsibility might be a bit specified, but for central nervous system, its functions, its responsibility is really wide, it's really broad. And so our central nervous system does many jobs at the same time. It multitasks. It controls all voluntary movements such as speech and walking, and also involuntary movements such as blinking and breathing. So our central nervous system is really special because it controls voluntary and involuntary movements all at the same time. And of course, when we're talking about nervous systems, there are some common issues that we would encounter, such as persistent or sudden headaches, loss of sensation, or muscle weakness. Or like some people might get loss of eyesight or double vision due to some condition with their nervous system, or maybe some memory loss, intellectual impairment, loss of coordination, muscle stiffness, tremor, and seizures. Or like maybe pain that occurs from our leg to other parts of our body. So what exactly are the causes of these problems? Of course, there are some things that we can control and some that we can't. So there are actually like many factors that leads to these problems. So for instance, blood supply problems, it would affect our nerves because when your blood circulation is bad, our central nervous system won't be able to receive oxygen and nutrients, which might damage the cells or they might malfunction. Actually, the health of our cardiovascular would affect the other parts of our body as well. So other factors that affect central nervous system includes injuries, such as if you're in car accidents and you hit your head or some vital parts of our spinal cord. So because spinal cord controls other parts of your body like your limbs and etc. So if you injure it, you won't be able to control them anymore. Some problems are present at birth, and this has something to do with mom's insufficiency in folic acid during pregnancy, because lack of folic acid would affect brain and spinal cord development. So other might be because of mental health problems that affects their central nervous system because our nerves is in correlation with our emotions, and that's why it would affect it. And another thing is exposure to toxins, because these toxins are not from our body, but chemical toxins from external surroundings. And some are like heavy metals because it would affect our central nervous system's function. And others might be because they are getting older and their central nervous system is degenerating. Some So they might have Alzheimer's diseases or Parkinson's diseases or other diseases that prevents them to have control of their limbs. Others might be because of infections like meningitis or like brain diseases such as encephalitis or abscesses. So these are the things that we should pay more attention to, as they are the ones that we can't control. So lastly, we have imbalanced electrolytes, which we will highlight today. So what are electrolytes and how do they become imbalanced? In nutrition, the term electrolytes refers to essential minerals found in your blood, sweat, and urine. And when you intake minerals, they will be dissolved with the fluids in our body and they will form into electrolytes. So they might be positive or negative ions, but they're all from the minerals we intake. So basically, electrolytes are the minerals in our fluid found in our body. So these electrolytes are required for various bodily processes, including proper nerve and muscle function, maintaining acid-base balance, keeping us hydrated, and supports muscle contractions. So some of the most common ones are like calcium or like iron or like potassium, magnesium, sodium chloride. These are some of the common electrolytes that our body needs. So if you don't have these electrolytes, you will have like muscles contract. And another thing, having electrolytes can balance out pH levels, and because they rely on electrolytes to help balance it out. So actually, having electrolytes can keep us hydrated, and it also supports muscle contractions. So I have mentioned before that if we lack magnesium, our muscle might have cramps. And also it balances out our pH levels. So because they rely on electrolytes to help balance it out. So we have come to the second question. How does imbalanced electrolyte affect the nervous system? So first, let us understand the body fluid. As mentioned earlier, the electrolytes are the minerals in our body fluid, right? So actually, 60 to 65% of our body are fluids because the interior and the exterior of our cells are all fluid. So let's have a look at what types of fluid that our body have. So the ones inside our cells are known as intracellular fluid. And the one that surrounds all cells in the body, the exterior one, is known as the extracellular fluid. And it has two primary constituents. So let's say our cells are like tiny balls. And if we throw them into a pool, the pool in the water is like the interstitial fluid that keeps flushing our cells. So the other one is blood plasma, which is the fluid component of our body. So if there's no blood plasma, our erythrocyte would not be able to flow. So blood plasma holds an important role in driving the flow of all parts of our body. It's like a river. So why do our cells need fluid for their internal and exterior? So why do our cells need fluid for their internal and exterior? Well, and why do our blood need fluid too? Actually, the communication between our cells, or when they exchange nutrients, gases, or like waste, all needs fluid for them to deliver. And this is why if our fluid has water or electrolytes in consistency, it would affect the communication between cells. Therefore, the main purpose of our nervous system is to help with our body's communication. And if we have imbalanced electrolytes, our environment inside our body would be imbalanced as well. So there are two main factors that affects the balance of our body fluid. The first is how much our fluid would take in. before that, let's have a look at the neurotransmitters. So actually, they are the chemical messengers in our body, and their job is to transmit signals. And if you can see in this picture, our neurons or our nerve cells don't need to be in contact with each other in order to communicate, because they can transmit signals even if there's a space between them. And this is because of neurotransmitters, because it goes from one end of the neuron and it transmitted to the head of another neuron. So that's how they communicate. So therefore, if we have imbalanced electrolytes, our imbalance, or like if we have imbalanced internal environment of our body, it would affect the production of neurotransmitters and would affect the transmission of signals between neurons. So like there are two main factors that affects the balance of our body fluid. And the first one is how much fluid we take in, the amount of water we consume. And the second is how much minerals we intake. And as it dissolves in water, it becomes electrolytes. So let's have a look at the fluid. So we might have dehydration, maybe due to diarrhea, vomiting, or like certain medicine. So these would cause our body to eliminate large amounts of fluid. And this will lead to imbalanced internal environment of our body. And a good example is, let's say we have dengue fever. We might have no appetite to drink, or like we would have diarrhea and vomiting, which leads to many to be in a state of unconsciousness due to dehydration. And another thing is, if our body has too much water, we would have edema in certain parts of our body, such as shown in the picture. You can see that like the hands were like all swollen. So, or like maybe if our brain is inconsistent, our brain would also swell as there's too much water. But of course, if our brain has too little water, it would shrink as well. Now, so as for minerals, having too high or too low will lead to certain problems. So if you have insufficient minerals, it would affect your emotions. If you have too much minerals, you might have like ADHD because there's too much heavy metals in your body and you're unable to metabolize it. So many studies found that imbalanced minerals has direct impact on our homeostasis, which is our body's ability to maintain a stable internal environment. So of course, minerals comes from the food we eat. And so the first study stated that if our diet intake lacks certain nutrients or minerals, our body wouldn't be able to maintain a balanced amount of neurotransmitters. And neurotransmitters is, as I mentioned earlier, it allows communication between neurons, right? By helping transmitting signals. So when the amount of neurotransmitters is imbalanced, it will cause like a barrier against the communication between the neurons, which is why we need to intake a balanced amount of nutrients, including minerals. So another study states that if the major electrolytes in our body is imbalanced, or if it becomes abnormal, it will cause brain swelling or shrinkage, and like which might cause muscle cramps, twitches, weakness, or seizures. So all these is due to having imbalanced electrolytes, which prevents our nerves from communicating with each other. And if we have imbalanced internal environment, studies also found that if it's because of dehydration, it would affect our cognitive performance, such as our cognitive or learning ability. And it would also affect our responsiveness in terms of slowing it down, or like having short-term memory or having mood disorders. So actually, replenishing on water can increase our cognitive ability, focus, and mood. And besides affecting academics performance or work performance, it also affects physical performance. So if you're too stressed, it would deplete certain nutrients in our body, especially our zinc and magnesium. And many studies have also found that those with mood disorders such as depression will have different levels of electrolytes, and they would lack certain minerals that help them to relax or calm down. So that's why those with mood disorders are like emotional unstable, such as if you're too stressed, you should replenish more on zinc, calcium, magnesium, and iron so that it can help ease down your emotions. And as mentioned earlier, kids would have ADHD or autism because of imbalanced internal environment for their body. So maybe due to excessive amount of heavy metals or lack certain necessary minerals, which causes certain physical mental disorders. So how does Kington mineral help with restoring a balanced internal environment? Of course, if you have like really severe central nervous system issues or like nervous system issues, you should still go to the doctors. But Kington mineral is just like a supplement that helps to replenish your body. So like maybe when you need it for like to improve your work performance or like for like learning performance, academic performance, you can consume Kington mineral. But remember, if you have really severe central nervous system issues, you should still look for the doctors. So why does it help? How does Kington mineral help with our central nervous system? Actually, it contains 78 types of trace minerals. Kington mineral and Kington isotonic differs in its concentration of trace minerals. And later on, we will discuss why having high concentration is beneficial. And another vital feature is that the trace minerals are in crystalloid forms. So the crystalloid forms aren't gelatinous. Usually if they're gelatinous, its absorption levels aren't that good because they have like bigger elements. But for crystalloid form, these trace minerals or substances are very small and tiny. Therefore, it has good absorption and its bioavailability would also be higher. And actually, where does the Kington mineral comes from? Actually, Kington mineral, like these trace minerals aren't man-made. They are from sea vortex because these sea vortexes would have high concentration of plankton. So through photosynthesis, this phytoplankton would break down the nutrients they eat, and they would break down many tiny nutrients, which becomes the crystalloid form trace minerals, which is very good for our body's absorption. So actually, some sea vortex will go through like photosynthesis, and like the plankton, the phytoplankton in them would break down the nutrients they eat and would break down, transform it into tinier nutrients. So actually these 78 types of trace minerals, because through these processes, they were able to become into a crystalloid form. So that is why I said that trace minerals aren't man-made. They are actually all from the nature. Like all the processes are nature's process. It's not artificial or man-made. And earlier we mentioned that it's higher in concentration. So actually the high concentration enables the trace minerals, trace elements to be quickly delivered to cells that need them. So actually if in a normal situation, if our cells is healthy, it has the ability to choose or pick the minerals that they need. But if your cells are unable to uptake minerals appropriately, that's why it needs higher concentration and higher bioavailability to be able to quickly deliver the cells that needs them. And actually, the substances would move from a higher concentration to lower concentration. And like this is something that many researchers, many studies have proven and have researched about. So therefore, for individuals whose body is lacking or imbalanced, if you ingest a higher concentration of trace minerals, as its concentration and the concentration of minerals in our cells differs, the substances would move from higher concentration to lower concentration, and therefore it will be quicker in transporting into those cells that needs these minerals. So through the replenishment of Kington mineral, it enables all the essential minerals to be quickly delivered to cells that needs them, as its bioavailability is also higher. And it also allows quick recovery, especially after exercising or from fatigue and muscle damage, or maybe if you have chronic disease, chronic stress, actually your electrolytes would deplete quicker, and therefore you should catch up with the replenishment, and Kington mineral can help you to do so. So it would help maintain a balance of mentality and emotions. So what type of individuals should consume Kington mineral? As mentioned earlier, those with chronic stress or like overworks a lot. You should replenish more, as your depletion would be quicker as compared to others. And as for elderlies, they often have degeneration, so nourishing cells with trace minerals can help delay degradation of brain functions. And also, as for those who are active in doing sports, they would deplete a lot. So when you sweat, you're actually depleting many electrolytes. So for sports persons or those who like exercising, they're suitable to replenish on this product. And for those who already have health issues or sick, such as dengue fever, you should consume on Kington mineral. So can kids consume it? Yes, they can, especially those who have health conditions that requires higher replenishment on minerals. But if they're normal, healthy kids with no illnesses or severe health conditions, they can opt for Kington isotonic instead.